Seattle, situated in America's Northwest, is a booming hip metropolis with a thriving tech sector, strong startup scene, and a resilient economy. Tech titans T-Mobile, Amazon, Microsoft, and HTC have all made Seattle their US home. AT&T and Verizon also boast significant operations in the area. Seattle has long history with wireless, going back to the days of McCraw Cellular, but with venture capital springing up all over the city and startups booming, even modern-day monsters like Google and Facebook have appeared on the scene.
So beyond the capital side of it, it's also a great environment because you've got a pretty good talent pool here that hasn't yet been completely dominated by a few big companies like down in the Bay Area, where it's pretty hard as a startup sometimes to compete from a hiring point of view with the Twitters and Facebooks and Googles and Apples and so forth of the world.
But you have the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Facebooks.
We do, and of course now you're seeing Facebook open here. There's multiple locations of Google that have opened here, so they're starting to see the same thing, but they don't have quite as much sway. And I think there's more of a flow in and out of the Microsofts and Amazons with respect to startups. There are people who do startups for a while and then go back to Microsoft or go to Amazon. And there are people at those larger companies that decide they want to try something else.
According to the city's Office of Economic Development, Seattle's ICT sector includes more than 850 companies, 1,800 jobs, and contributes over $3.5 billion to the city's economy.
What attracted me was the startup business group that Microsoft had just recently created. So I came to campus and I met with a number of the senior folks who have a really great combination of experience of both working, inside Microsoft, inside a large organization that has lots of assets and a tremendous, roadmap, as well as working outside the company and understanding, more of the consumer viewpoint. And those combinations really convinced me that this was a great place to be.
Software developers, engineers, programmers, analysts, and graphic designers have all converged on the city, giving Seattle the second highest concentration of programmers and engineers in the US and the third highest in the nation for all ICT occupations. Intel even recently singled out Seattle as the most unwired city in America, saying it was the easiest place in which to find wireless internet connections.
Yeah, so obviously, Microsoft started in the Puget Sound area, and so that has really created a center of gravity for technology here in Washington. The mobile sort of aspect of that technology space, I can personally trace back to the McCraw Cellular days, right, where McCraw they started a network operator. They had a terrific reputation. I have a lot of friends who used to work for McCraw, and they speak very fondly of those days. But really coming out of that genesis and into the AT&T era, and then into on to Singular, there's been a real heavy investment in cellular technology here in the Puget Sound area.
Some of Seattle's greatest advantages in terms of tech talent lie in the city's proximity to good universities, access to multiple venture capital companies, a large base of existing software companies, and cutting-edge infrastructure, which fosters innovation while being less intense than New York or Silicon Valley.
Actually, I came to the US and thought I was going to be in the Bay Area because that's where all the startups are. And I had a bunch of interviews down there, and I came up here for a weekend to visit a friend that worked at Amazon. And I knew one company up here. And I never went back to the Bay Area. I just liked it so much in Seattle. It's a slightly smaller town. It was a little bit less hectic than the Bay Area was in '98. In '98 in the Bay Area, you couldn't get a house, you couldn't get a car. It was sort of very crazy. And Seattle, I walked into this company. The only person I knew there was the CEO, and he basically said, "Well, we'll get you we'll rent you a car for the first month, and you're not going back to the Bay Area." So I stayed here. So I think I'd rather be here than the Bay Area in terms of the talent competition. I talk to people in the Bay Area that have developer slots unfilled for 6 months, and we just put out some ads for new positions, and we have 30, 40 good applicants. So I think it's not too bad here by comparison. There's a reason those big companies have moved up here.
For me, it's more about the startup culture building, and I can sense it. I wasn't totally sure coming here what it was all about. I knew it was a good tech city because of Amazon, because of Microsoft. But actually coming here and seeing the community working in this building with 20 other startups, and getting to know other startups all across the city. I mean, there's more than just this building happening. It's all over.
While the tech talent raves about the quality of life in Seattle for the most part, there are some downsides to the city's charms, namely the high cost of living, terrible traffic, and the weather.
It's a good mix. We try to sneak out for happy hours and probably come back after happy hours sometime and stay here till 2 or 3. It's just a matter of, when we're shipping, we're here all night. Other times we try to get out and play. The weather's been nice the last couple months, so getting out and hiking, exploring Seattle's outdoors for me, because I just moved here, has been a lot of fun.
Well, the rain and the weather is the worst. I'm a golfer, and so I'm just trying to find time to play golf in the winter, and it's pretty brutal. The best part, I think it's a livable, easy city, and there's good skiing. You can go out on the lake in the summer. There's a lot of positive to sort of the outdoors here. But yeah, the weather sucks.
But while the weather may put a damper on Seattle's shine, its tech stars seem to have internalized the mantra, no rain, no gain.